Hello, I'm John McAllister with the John McAllister Sports Report. Today, we're going to go into the coach's corner part of my program and talk with the recently retired defensive coordinator from Iowa State University, Jon Heacock. Jon Heacock and I have been friends a long, long time. I think I met him first at Toledo a long time ago. But he's done a great job. He's been at Iowa State for 10 years with Matt Campbell and decided not to go to pick up and move and go to Penn State University. And I think retirement, a little scary probably, but it looks good to him. He's very intelligent, and I really enjoyed my interview with him, and I could talk about so many more things. So if you sit back and enjoy my interview with Jon Heacock, retired defensive coordinator at Iowa State University, and he's put in some miles. As I said in the intro, my guest today is Jon Heacock, long time friend and great guy. And John's retired from, as most people know, from Iowa State University, football as a DC. Didn't go to Penn State with Coach Campbell. Jon, how are you?
I'm great, John. Great. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Are you happy so far?
Yeah, it's been a unique experience, John. Everything happened really fast. But I was trying to make the right decision for everybody. And I think the best thing for me at this point in time, my family and everybody, was to hang up my whistle. And I'm doing well, thanks.
Well, haven't you kind of been thinking about it a little bit before this?
Well, I think anytime I turned 65 during the season.
Right.
I think anytime that you're, through all of this, new college football, I think you're always kind of thinking about. I've been at Iowa State 10 years now. It's the longest I've been anywhere. We stayed here. Son went to school here. Daughter went to school here. All those things. So it's been really a good experience. And I think in the big picture, I have been bouncing it around, and then just the way things fell this year, the time was right.
Well, I say that because you had shared that small talking with me a little bit a couple years ago. So that just anyway, I got to show you something. I'm in a bind. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see here real quick. Now, am I a Matt Campbell fan and Jon Heacock fan? Of course. There's my Iowa State hooded sweatshirt.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
There you go.
I appreciate you.
Now, my kids surprised me and got me this.
There you go. Well, that's okay.
So I told them, I said, wait till I get out of Penn State. I'll get a lot of free stuff that way.
Yeah, there you go. That's for sure.
John, how are your brothers, Jeff and Jim, doing?
They're doing great. Jeff is still in New Concord, Ohio,
Right.
and doing great. And Jim is still there in Columbus, and he's doing well as well. So we get together a couple times a year, and they're doing well.
And you got a lot of publicity on this over the course. Is the defense that you and Coach Campbell came up with 10 years ago, the 3-3-5?
Yes. Yeah. It was out of necessity, and I said this too, I've said this to our staff, Tyson Veit was on that staff, Ohio guy, DK McDonald, was from Warville, was on that staff when we first came here, Eli Rashid. We were sitting there and we had played a year and 3 games into this conference, and had done what we had done, 4-2-5 sub, nickel dime package, all those things, multiple pressures at Toledo, all that kind of thing. And we got into this league, and the tempo had changed. It was all a whole air raid, everything was going 100 miles an hour. The ball was, you were spread sideline to sideline, and it was hard to get substitutions in. I think trying to get our best players on the field and keep them on the field was huge. And so, coach, after the Akron game, we came back. We had an open date. We came back and said, "Hey, we got to come up with something completely different." And that's what we came up with. And I would say, I can say it fairly because I was in the room. Had we not come up with something, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation about Iowa State.
Right. Right. Okay. That's enough. That's your credibility. Everybody wants to know. Let's talk
Yeah.
about you a little bit. It is, John. Come on. I know, but still, you deserve a lot of the credit for that.
Well, I
Okay.
appreciate you.
And I would say one more thing about you that I would say, John, I think there are very, very few coaches that do a good job evaluating because they don't take time to look inside of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the kid linebacker, he'll kill me, from over in the Cleveland area, went to your camp a few years ago and ended up making an all-conference linebacker.
Right, Mike Rose.
Mike Rose. And I remember talking to Mike Rose in high school, or coming out of high school. I think it was in camp, and boy, you guys did wonders for him.
Yeah, we Tyson found him. We actually found him that weekend that we were going to play Akron. Actually, Tyson had got off the plane and went and watched the game. And then came back and said, "Man, I've never seen anybody play as hard a football game from beginning to end as anybody ever." So that's how that all got started.
That's a good thing about coaches that can see talent and evaluate. Okay. Right. Okay, John, where did you start? I think I can't remember for sure where I met you, but I know at Youngstown State I did. And I think one of the things I really like about guys like you is you deserve the time. You started out small schools, worked your way up, and now you are where you are.
Right.
But where did you start, John?
I was actually, John, I graduated from Muskingum in 1983. Right. Had played for my brother and Coach Al Christopher.
Al Christopher.
And then Steve Gwynn was on that staff. I don't know if you would remember that name, was from Toledo area. Anyways, he got I graduated. I could not find a teaching and coaching job. I interviewed a few spots, but really there weren't a lot of opportunities out there. I had resigned, in fact, to go home to West Branch, live with my dad, substitute teach. I had also thrown around the idea that if I couldn't get a teaching coaching job, I might try to get into the highway patrol. That was something that always interested me.
Right.
But anyways, 5 days before 2-day camp started at Toledo, Steve Gwynn called my house and said, "Hey, our GA is not going to be here. He's still in an NFL camp. We start camp at the end of the week. Can you come be a GA?" Well, I chose to do that. I made $1,200 that year, John. I made I got 3 different paychecks of $400. Paid my own way to graduate school back then. This was 1983 season. And so I was a GA there at Toledo. Left there, went to back into high school. Then I got a job at Steubenville Big Red with Reno. Was blessed to go back there and coach and taught health and physical education. We won the state championship. That was 1984. Really cool run, great town. Had a blast. Larry Shank then that spring came in and was looking for a defensive coach, and Reno was kind of being himself and said, "Hey, hire this hot shot. He thinks he wants to coach college football." And so I don't know, 2 months later, I have an opportunity. I took actually about $6,000 or $8,000 pay cut to go to West Liberty. I made, I think, $14,000 that year. And I was making like 20 some as a teacher, and I was head baseball coach and assistant football coach and all those kind of things to make some extra money. But so I went to West Liberty, coached for 3 years, went to Michigan then, and had a blast at West Liberty. Larry Shank was a great guy to work for. Learned the most football probably ever because we only had really one full-time coach, myself. I was the intramural director. I was equipment guy.
That's what's important.
You did everything, recruited, etc. And so then, excuse me, John, but then I went to, got a chance to go to Michigan as a graduate assistant. Spent 2 years up there with Coach Schembeckler. Met Bob Sutton through being there. In 1990, he had an opening as an assistant defensive backs coach. They have 200 guys at practice. So I went and coached at West Point in 19. That would have been 1990 season. Then that following spring, I got a chance to interview at Youngstown and with Coach Tressel, Ken Knatzer, and
That's right.
and was able to. I got the defensive back job there, and so then I was at Youngstown, through the run there of the 4 national championships, and went to Indiana in '97 for 3 years as the coordinator. Went back to Youngstown in 2000. Coach Tressel got the head job at Ohio State. I was able to stay on and get the head job at Youngstown. Was there through 2009, 2010 season. Then I was out, but I ended up spending kind of what they call now the analyst. I went to Ohio State every week, Monday morning, and stayed till like Wednesday night or Thursday. Worked with my brother, Luke Fickle, Paul Haynes, Coach Tressel, that whole group of guys. Tabor Johnson, I believe, was on the staff there as well. And so I spent 2010 there, 11 to Kent State, 11 and 12 with Daryl Hazel, 13 to Purdue. I think 14, 15 with Coach Campbell as the coordinator at Toledo, and then 16 till now I've been here. So that's a lot, John. That's a lot.
What I tell you from this, okay, a couple of things. I tell young coaches that want to be college coaches, I said, you don't necessarily have to go to a big time school.
Mm-hmm.
Go where you can coach.
Right. Amen.
You're going to go to a big time school, you're going to be maybe an analyst, maybe this, but go where you can coach. Go
Right.
where you can understand not having much money. I said, you're not going to make any. Well, maybe they do now. But
Yeah.
you're not going to make any money. And I said, the other thing, John, and I do this in my profession, as you know, meet as many coaches as you can.
Mm-hmm.
I said, maybe at a camp or something, just ask them 1 or 2 questions and then you walk away. But I said, then they're going to remember you.
Right.
And I said, I think that's big. A couple of guys, Jack Hecker, was he in Army when you were there?
He was. Jack was. He coached the Lonesome End.
Jack Hecker, he was in Marion Harding, and we got to be
Right.
friends. And great guy.
Incredible human being. Jack Hecker was as good a human being as there was, but he coached the wideouts, wide out at West Point. But man, what a great human being! And yes, absolutely.
Jack Hecker. Now let's talk about things that advice that I want you to give. Okay.
Okay.
And then we're done with your background, and we're done. We don't. If they want to see all your records, all that stuff,
Yeah.
Google you and Google
Yeah.
Jon Heacock, and I don't do that here. Okay?
That's fair.
That's
There's not much to Google, John.
well, yeah, I know you're cutting yourself short, John, but don't. I know you, man. So don't. Okay, let's talk. What's your core coaching philosophy as you look back? As you look back, maybe what's your basic core coaching philosophy? As far as you can give me anything.
Well, I think, I guess defense is probably, I think the first thing I would say defensively, the first thing I would say is you have to fit players. Coach Campbell uses a thing that he got from Coach Karras, I believe, that it's players, formations, plays, and I think on defense it's players, and then schematics. I think it's you have to be able to have, and I don't think you can. I don't think you can always be the same, John. I think in the old days, or in my younger days, I should say, man, you played a lot of the same defenses. Everybody was lining up the same. All of those things. This day and age, that's not the case.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I've tried to do everywhere has been able to play defense and not defenses.
Okay.
Probably guys on our staff probably think that I still live a little bit of the days of, not a lot of different calls, not a lot of different things. I think repetition is still the mother of all learning. I think players, repetitions. There are so many things that offenses are doing this day and age, and none of the rules benefit a defensive player. There's not an NCAA rule that you play on a Saturday that benefits a defensive player.
I agree.
You can cut a defensive player, but you can't cut an offensive player. There's way more DPIs than there are OPIs. there really isn't anything that benefits the offense, and that's okay. That's what it is. That being said, then you have to be able to adjust to everything that happens. And I think the players, the schematics. What are you doing with your guys? What are you asking them to do that you can hold them accountable for? And that's where the defense and defenses come in. I felt at times in my career we've played defenses and we never played very good defense. And I think at times we've played really good defense and we didn't have a lot of defenses. And obviously players are part of that as well. But
Right.
I think those are the important things on defense to me, that you have to have something. And then on third down, you have to be different because you've got to find a way to get off the field. I think we spent most of our time at Iowa State on third downs. I think first and second downs we were finding the best things that our kids could do against what they were doing. And then we spent most of our time on third downs. We maybe to a fault. John in red zone goal line defense, once the ball got inside the 12-yard line, we played the same call for probably, I don't know, the last 9 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
And our guys got repetitions at it because that's where everybody on offense schemes you.
Right.
They're coming up with all the different ideas, and that's where your kids have to have answers down there, and that's where the pressure's on. The field gets smaller, so that's kind of a little bit of it in a nutshell. But I think players is the most critical thing. I don't think you can get stuck on a scheme, and I think once you have a scheme, then you've got to be able to play defense and not a bunch of defenses. You can't go to clinics and hey, that looks cool, and you know. I remember Ken Knatzer. This would be the last thing I would add. Ken Knatzer used to always tell us, Mark Schneider was on our defensive staff at Youngstown. He was an Ironton guy, and he'd always tell us young guys, like, it's not the blitz, it's the blitzer. And you know what? Because we would always be up there, the young, oh, we got to do this blitz, and we got to do this. And
It's
he would always say, man, it sure isn't the blitz, it's the blitzer. And that is 100% true.
that's
And I think those things are very important, and we lose sight of that. We think we have to do more with less. I think you do less with less, and I think you do less with more. And
yeah,
I think that always gets you more.
yeah. Sounds good. Okay, what are some of the biggest challenges? Give me two or three that you have faced over the years. As you accept challenges, what would be one or two or three?
Oh, I think I think the challenges become anytime that, like even going into a new program is a challenge. I think those things are, trying to, because you're still trying to develop relationships. Everything is still a relationship game, regardless of what's going on. You're still trying to do that. You have to have some relationships. It's almost impossible to coach guys this day and age without relationships.
Right.
It's
That's
hard to coach with guys anymore without relationships.
yeah.
You're in the room with them all the time, and it's an ever-changing game. So, I think the biggest challenges are relationships this day and age. I think that's hard. When you talk about challenge, when we came here, it was just it was a different school, different kinds of players. They were completely different than the kids we had at Toledo. And that's not good or bad. That's just how it is. And I think you have to be able to handle the relationship part. I think those are the biggest challenges that you have right now.
I'm not so sure, John. That's even more magnified with the
Oh,
transfer portal, and I mean, I, th- I think relationships are still really, really important there.
100%, John. And that's the biggest challenge I think you have. This day and age is still trying to develop it because to coach guys hard, to get them to buy in. There has to be some form of relationship. I mean, it isn't any different in the workplace.
That's super.
It's all the same.
What's the most important piece of advice that you ever received?
That's an easy one. The first year I was at Toledo, and I've believed this ever since. I worked for Jim Yonke in the defensive line. I was a 23-year-old, 22-year-old college graduate, 23, I guess. Turned 23 that season. Had no idea what anything about the defensive line. Like I knew schematically what we had played at Muskingum. I knew where my fits were. I knew what they were fitting. I knew that. But as far as teaching a D lineman anything, and I'll never forget, and Jim Yockey was the D line coach, and I said, Coach, he said, I want you coaching somebody every play. I said, Coach, I don't think you want that. I don't know anything about what these guys are doing. And he said, well, I'm going to give you one piece of advice. He said, whenever you go on a field, he said, you coach every player, every single play. And he said, you leave the practice field knowing that on every play, somebody got coached by you. And he said, it can be from enthusiasm. It can be from running to the football. It can be how to tackle. It can be whatever it is. It doesn't always have to be an X or an O, but you have to be involved as a coach on every single play that goes on the field.
It's
And
really
it's
good.
something.
That's great for young people.
Yes, sir. It's something I've never forgotten. I think I often sometimes, like, I look around and everybody's got headsets now. There's 99 coaches on the field, and you know, and I think it's important. It's something I never forgot. And he said, you don't have to know everything. And he said, if you don't know what they're supposed to do, ask them if they knew what they were doing. And he said, but you have to have communication with a player on every single play while you're on a practice field as a coach. And it's one of the things I've never forgotten.
That's really good, John. That's really good. What's kind of a tough question? Who's the most influential coach? And I'm sure there's not just one that you've worked with over the years.
Yeah,
Hard question.
that is a hard one, John. I mean, I've been blessed. I've been some. I mean,
Well,
I
just
was
some of the
around.
guys you told me about in this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, assistant coaches. Or Coach Tressel was probably the most influential because that was really my first full-time college job. Him and Coach Canatzer, about how to treat people. How to treat players. How important it was, how important your job was. You had a job, do your job. But I was around. I was blessed. I mean, I was with.
It's really
Had a chance to coach with Bob Sutton. I had a chance to coach for Jim Young. I was with Coach Schembechler, Lloyd Carr, Gary Moeller.
good. Oh my.
You know,
Yeah, you've been blessed.
Matt's been awesome to be around. I mean, I've been around him 10 years. I mean, assistant coaches, I was with Marcus.
Yeah.
I've just been blessed to be around some really cool people. And you take something from everybody because
Yeah.
everybody's different. Every one of those coaches did it differently.
Yeah.
Defensively, probably, I probably I learned a ton about defense at West Liberty because I had to coach every position. You had different coaches every spring and fall, so you had to coach every position. I mean, the amount of clinics that I went to as a young kid and coaches listening to them talk. I mean, everything. I mean, you just had to learn everything. So
Here's a
that was,
joke. Here's a joke about Marcus. When he came to Kent State, my son was there,
yeah,
and
right, David. Yeah, for sure.
I told David, I said, I'll bet you $1 Marcus never stays in college football.
Yeah,
Honest truth.
is that
I
right?
don't
Yeah,
evaluate everybody. I
right.
missed once. I just thought there was something about Marcus. I
Yeah,
loved him. But I said, I
yeah.
told David, I said, I'll bet you $1 he doesn't stay in college football. And he's done pretty well.
Yeah, he was really a good coach. And again, you talk about caring about your players and
Yeah.
teaching, and yeah, he was really good at it. But probably defensively, probably Lloyd Carr was probably him and Jim Herman, that group of guys up there. Tom Reed was on that staff.
Yeah.
Um, but I learned the most about like running a defense probably from those guys.
Yeah.
I think the people part, Coach Tress was not interested a lot in schemes. He
Yeah.
was interested in how you handled people and the kind of kid you recruited. But probably schematically, just from Lloyd and those guys about, the purpose of leverage and everybody knowing, his whole thing was and I still use this today. The definition of defense is knowing where your help is. You can't play individually if you don't know what everybody else is doing.
Right.
And it's our job as coaches to teach our kids that.
I when they fired not everybody knows this, when they fired Woody down at Ohio State, I said, I'm out of here because they didn't give him a chance to resign.
Right.
Anyway, that's silly. I became a Michigan fan.
Okay.
Lloyd Carr was one of the nicest guys I've worked with.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
we got into two boys and I, we got in places where Nobody else did. But every time Coach Carr and I come up, he'd say, "Hey, John, how's it going? You bring the boys up." The second thing I always thought that was so neat. He'd say, "You
Yep.
bring the boys up."
Yep.
Boy, Carr.
Yep.
Okay, John, this is going way too. I have so many more questions to ask you. I may get you again sometime.
That's okay. Well, I got some free time, John. So
I know you do.
I can talk to you anytime.
By the way, advice on retirement, not to me because it didn't hurt me, but find something else to do, John.
Yep.
Now I have two more questions. Okay. What do you see? I have a lot more, but what do you see as the future of college football?
Well, I don't have the answer to that, John. I'm
Okay.
not sure where it's going to go, and I'm being honest, and I don't think anybody does. I think there's got to be some kind of I think everybody's talked about. Um, they've kind of turned it into a business, and nobody would run the business. There's not a business person listening to this or anywhere that would run the business the way college football is being run. Um, I don't know how long you can sustain it.
Okay.
So I think it's got to change. I think we got to get it back in the box. I think that, everybody talks about the calendar, the recruiting, the portal, the NCAA. I feel almost, I'm not know that I'm ever a fan of the NCAA, but they were the governing organization. They got sued by they're not winning anything. So why would they fight anything? In fairness to them, everybody's mad at them. Well, there may have been a chance way back.
In a sense, what are you looking forward to the most about this new chapter now in your life? What are you looking forward to most about retirement?
Oh, I think, John, for the time, I think just to slow down for a minute. I think for 43 years, as coaches, it's 15 hours a day. Um,
Most of the
it's
time,
yeah,
more than that sometimes.
yeah, it's nonstop, and your mind never stops. I think just trying to slow down a little bit. Obviously, you try to get healthy a little bit, and just try to take care of myself a little bit. But I think the time was with family, and my daughter got married out here. My son is going to have probably an opportunity to go to Penn State,
Okay.
so get there and visit. But just some time with some family and some friends that I really never ever had time for, to be honest.
Right. Now, is your wife going to kick you out or not?
Probably ready to already, to be honest.
If she hasn't by now,
Yeah,
you're probably good, John.
yeah, maybe a few more days yet. We'll see.
Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Had fun, and I learned a lot. But a lot of the guys for me that you talk about, I knew or know. Even I remember the defensive line coach at Toledo, and I remember talking to him a few times, and he was
Right.
really good, tough
Yes.
guy,
Yep.
really good.
Malvern, Ohio guy.
Ooh,
How about that?
I didn't know that.
Yes, sir.
John, thank you very much. I appreciate it so much.
John, you've been a tremendous friend to me over the years. I appreciate you.
Thank you.